Hiya guys, and welcome back to Aid's Workshop. So I didn't put a video up last week. Truth is I haven't been in the shed for, well, I thought it's been a fortnight. Well, I think it'll be a fortnight tomorrow. Got the brother-in-law has come over. Basically he lives in Vancouver in Canada. He came over beginning of December, let's say, but he spent a weekend with us last weekend rather than with his parents, as it were. Yeah, we went out and about and explored a bit of the countryside round here. Went for a full walk, the full length of Newgale Beach. It's about maybe 5k, something like that, up and down the beach. Went to Pembroke Castle. I haven't been there since I was really young. Did the full tour and all the rest of it. If any of you are ever in Wales, visit Pembroke Castle. It's one of the best for a sort of looking around, and there's spiral staircases and dungeons underneath and caves you drop down into. It's fabulous. May put a little bit of footage on the end. It's going to be iPhone footage, so it may be the sort of narrow format, but yeah, I may put some on the end. So if you watch to the end, look out for that. I'll let you know in the outro if I'm going to do it. Anyway, with that said, I've been getting on with the Webster engine. Made a few mistakes, changed a few things, but basically finished off the rocker assembly with the tappets, so the cam follower, that sort of thing. So yeah, there was a change of plan. I should have gone the way I originally thought anyway. But it's complete now as I'm doing this intro, but I'll take you over and we'll get on with it. Cheers, guys. So back at it, I've decided I'm going to remake this bearing in much the same as I did up the back end. So just clocking it in. We've got 40, 40, 40 and 40. So got my spindle over the original hole. Boring head up now and do a little counterbore to take the bearing shoulder. So swapped over to the boring head. Just put a little cutter in there. Let me just get a touch off, set a 0. So I've written down the numbers. 1.1 deep and I need to go out to 19 diameter. Let's just bring that cutter back a bit. Okay, I'm going to lock off my quill, use the micro adjust. So what are we doing speed wise? Don't know. Okay, let's do it. It's not going to take long, this. Cutter's not being nice. So final cut. Okay, here we go. And that's it. Okay. There we are, it's fitted. Okay, so I think while I'm at it, I was being lazy earlier. I'll counterbore the bearing into this one as well, but same technique. So with that bearing now counterbored into there, as you can see, if I just put the valve block against the face that it's going to be on, it brings the centre of the cam back in line with the valves again now, which is how it was designed. I could have skimmed a bit off the back of the cam, but yeah, this is the right way to do it. So they've got 3 bearings now, all bored in, except for this one. So I am going to do this one as well. I was just being lazy before. I just put the cam back in the vise with the high point facing down. And I've just centre drilled a little hole there. Now, I was talking about putting some brass inserts in the end of grub screws. I basically just bought a packet of M3 by 4mm long grub screws there, screwdriver slot in the end. The screwdriver slot's going to be above the level of the outside of here, but not by much. So yeah, that's going to be my cam adjustment for valve timing. Basically on a little brass grub screw, so that shouldn't damage the shaft, and I can rotate it and time it in. Maybe at some point in the future I'll pin it through, we'll see. But yeah, that'll give me the adjustability. So the timing pulleys are going to be pinned. It's already pinned on a crank. It's going to be pinned on the camshaft, and then I can rotate the cam in relation to the camshaft for timing at a later stage. So I've just centre drilled that. No idea how fast I'm going. What am I doing? No, actually a little fast. So yeah, just 2.5 drill right through there. That'll do me. And I'll get a 3mm tap up, tap that by hand, no heroics, and that'll be good for the little 3mm grub screws. So 3mm tap up in the chuck, a little bit of cutting oil on it, and we'll just pop the reamer back through the inside after. But no heroics here, no power tapping. Don't want to go snapping the tap off in this, not after the amount of work that goes into making that cam. Okay, speed down, reverse, push start. And back out. That was probably a little fast. Anyway, it's only a little tap. Okay, so yeah, I'll just pop my reamer back through there, make sure we got no burr, and then it's ready to fit one of the tiny grub screws. So yeah, I was thinking about perhaps hardening this cam. It is a bit of 01, I believe. You know, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure I made it out of 01. I may have said differently in an earlier video, but I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think it's mild steel. Anyway, with that said, yeah, I was thinking of hardening it, but it's running on brass. I'm not going to. So that's a little grub screw in place. Probably is maybe a mil too long. I probably will shorten that down a little bit. So with that said, the little rocker assembly, I've measured up. I need a spacer behind there to make sure the rocker's on the right plane as well. So 4.2mm is what I've measured up. So I'm going to put a 6mm reamed hole in it, and probably like 9mm diameter. Now there's nothing physically retaining this bearing in here. The head doesn't retain it, of the spindle, should we call it, and the spacers sort of not retaining it, even you know, the bearing in the aluminium. However, it was a press bit in there. I don't foresee any issues. I mean, I could have put a larger shoulder either side just to keep it all together, but I'm sure that's going to be absolutely fine, no problem. It's pressed in there. So just chucked a piece of brass in. I've whopped a 6mm reamer up the chuff of it, over about 10mm, just face the front, and I'm looking for 9mm OD. No idea what it is at the moment. 1/2 inch perhaps. Let's have a measure. I mean, this isn't critical. You know, I'm not trying to do anything outstanding here. 11.7, 11.8. Okay. So I should bring me to 11. That tip's definitely got a chip on it. That should be 10mm. I can feel the resistance in the cut is greater than it normally would be on a bit of brass, and that tells me that that tip has gone. There's a big amount of cutting on the back. On the back as well. I'm getting a lot of spring passing. I wonder if I can just, you know what, I'm going to change that tip now while we're at it. Get a little brush. I'm going to turn the tip, I should say. I'm not going to change it. I don't know how many times it's been turned before. Let's have a little looky see. Oh yeah, I can see it on the end. Which tip hasn't been used on here? That's the one with a great big chip on it. My eyesight isn't what it used to be. That's got a little chippage. That's a new corner. Okay. A little bit of dirt on the end of the tool. Slap that out of there with a brush. Back in place. And from memory, I was fiddling with this a little while back when I was in here and playing with the centre height. I had issues, and that was down to the little chip on the end, which has changed the point on the end of the tip where it is in relation to the workpiece. I do recall playing with the centre height, and what I should have done was just turn the tip. Yeah, mate, I'm doing it now. Right, apologies for the slight interlude there, guys. Right, we should have a fresh tip on there now. Let's just take a scratch pass, leave it where it was. Okay, that's cutting already. Much better. And negligible amount of swab coming off on the back, on the spring pass coming back out. So yeah, the tip was shot. 8.84. We'll leave it there. Okay, so let's have a think what I'm doing here. I'm going to need a 4mm wide spacer, so I think just the smallest of break edges on there, because I can. Yep, on the front edge. Okay, that'll do. I think I'm just going to, little piece of emery, just take any possibility of a sharp edge off the entry to the hole, and then part her off. So let's just stop that a moment. 4.2 is what it's going to end up at. I'm going to get fairly close with this. I've got a rule here somewhere. Always got a rule to hand, except for when you want a rule to hand. Okay, never mind. Parallel. Make sure there's no swarf in there. Okay, call that a 0. If I go in 4.3, I can rub it over a bit of wet and dry on the parted off side afterwards. Okay, 4.3. And what have I got? I got something to hand to pick it up with. I go so far in. Carefully chamfer the top edge and part it off. Oh, got my little key to the ready that I use for the changing the tip. Okay, we'll finish the rest off on a bit of wet and dry. Happy days. So bring it into the camera. Okay, little spacer there, 6mm reamed hole, 4.2 wide, 9 nominal diameter, and I'm going to have to run that end over wet and dry to bring it down to the 4.2. It's clearance, you know. I don't want it a tight fit or precision fit to stop any side to side in that rocker arm. If there's 0.1 in it, I'm happy. So 4.23, just a little more. Just holding it in my fingers and running it across that smooth file. 4.21. Yeah. .2. I'm going to try that, see if it feels sloppy enough. If it doesn't, a little bit more. Simple as that, really. Just need a little deburr around the inside of there. I'll do that by hand with a chamfering bit, and we've got the spacer made. So I made a mess up. I fitted the cam follower, we'll call it, the little brass insert in the end of there. It's completely wrong. Okay, I did put some little rads on the end as well, but it's all in place, and you can see roughly how it operates. So I think it runs in this direction. Okay, and obviously as the rocker rocks up, I was going to put a spring on the underside. I'm still not decided about that, but as that rocker rocks up, it lifts the valve. Now, because I've only got a small circular pad, I've shortened the duration, because it comes around to here and it rides up the edge of that pad instead of on a flat surface. So it should start riding the second it goes off, parallel as it were, you know, off the peak. It should start to open, but it doesn't open until it hits the edge of that pad. We've already started in the rising part of the cam. Again, it'll run through, and the second it falls off that peak there, it's starting to lower, and it lowers far sooner. So what I've done by putting that pad in is shorten the duration that the valve is open. And I'm sure in the original design that's not a good thing. In the original design, the profile of this cam was designed to run on a flat surface that at the peak point where the rocker was parallel. So I'm going to change the design slightly there. I was about to start making this bit. I thought I'd put it together and make a measure up of what I got to put in. Again, I did say in a previous video for the tappet I was going to put a cup. No, because obviously as that rotates, the distance away from the center changes, and if that valve is following in a cup, it's going to try and pull it sideways and what have you. So I'm going to leave the end of the valve flat, and the surface of the tappet is going to be flat as well, and I can just put a drop of oil on it now and again. But yeah, that's where I've messed up. So out with that bit of brass. I've got a great slab of PTFE, so I'm going to chop a square off this with a hacksaw. Yes, I'm pretty sure I can hacksaw it. Chop a square off it, you know, maybe an inch long, and I'm going to turn up a PTFE pad. So I have turned PTFE before, for George Chuck Up. It's an absolute beaut to turn, to be honest. Let's speed things up a touch. Just face the end off, set this up a 0. 9mm was the distance back I was going. Let's go 8.5. Just roughing this out. Can't see a lot. So this is going to be 5mm diameter, finished. It's 8.5, let's go a bit further. So 8.9 there. Okay, so let's see, let's do a scratch pass, see where I am on diameter. Okay, set a 0. Have that bit of stringy stuff out the way. Yeah, it's nicer than nylon. It's not so furry is the word. Okay, 7mm on the button. So, well, 7mm on the caliper button. So I want to take about a mil aside off. Take 0.8 aside off, we'll have another measure. Here we go. What am I running at? 1400 RPM. I'm going to set a 0 there. Set a 0 there. We'll space the underside. Or what's going to be the underside. Okay, I'm going to go for slightly over here because it's soft and I want it to be a press fit. 5.1, not that much of a press fit. 5.15 that measured. I'm just going to take another scratch off that. Okay, let me just try my arm on there. Not my arm, this arm. section. I probably should get the mic out, shouldn't I? 2 seconds. Right, let's have a look where we actually are. It's tricky to measure because it's so soft. 5.199. Okay. Take 0.05 off there. Looking for about 2,000. I mean, it ain't going to go anywhere once it's in there. All the pressure's always downwards, but I don't want it slopping about. Does Loctite work on PTFE? Don't know. 5.057. Okay, let's have a try of that. I think we should be in the ballpark now. I can just start it. Leave it alone. Okay, so I'm just going to part the chunk off of this. I know it's a bit unorthodox because I'm going to cut it to size afterwards, and I'm going to use the aluminium to cut it to cut the outer profile. But I know I want 2.5mm wide, so I'm going to part through the square section. Got plenty sticking out the chuck. Before I do that, let's just actually, thinking on it, just a little shumper on the end of that 5mm. Obviously, if I was turning this back over a long distance, that would be moving around a lot more. We wouldn't want that. Yeah, but for a little short stub that I've just machined on there, should be, well, it was very simple to turn. So let's just line myself up on there somehow. Let's have a look. Set 0. 2.5 is what I want. Just going to lock that there. Let's just come back out. So I didn't even bother clocking this up, it was eyeball. Can I get in deep enough? Hope so. Oh, close. Okay. Thinking what I might have to do, just put it back up and face the other side. So yeah, little disc there with a square piece on the end. Obviously I missed the middle bit, so I'll probably put that back up in a 3 jaw in a minute and just tickle across this space to clean it up. And then when that sits in there, which it should just, okay, oh, okay, I'm then going to basically push it in, mark it up with a scriber, cut it and file it or whatever to the right shape so that it's got a complete PTFE pad on the top of the rocker. So back up in a 3 jaw. Thankfully I touched on the jaw to get a depth, come out 2.5mm. Okay. That's better. Now we've got a smooth surface on there. Okay, so yeah, happy days. Right, we need to cut that profile now to the shape or size we want, but there's plenty of meat there to play with. So a bit of hand fitting. I just drew a line around the underside when I pushed it in with my fingers. It did push in, but it is a good fit. Drew a line around the underside, hacksawed it within a mil or so, and I've basically gone down with a Stanley knife blade around the outside, just bringing it into flush with the outside edges. So I've now got a PTFE pad. I'm going to put that back on, see how we do with that. I just took a slither off the back edge, just a mil. It's still wider than the cam. My grub screw was catching on it, so it's an area that's not doing anything. So that's this sort of back edge here. I took 2mm off it, just popped it out, trimmed it down with a Stanley knife till I was about 2mm thinner, and now my grub screw misses. Okay, so now the cam, I think it rotates in this direction, but it touches on the flat surface. It doesn't touch on the edge and then start riding up it. And again, when I rotate round, it releases, it's still on the flat surface. So yeah, I mean, it's closer on the other end, but I think we've now got the sort of open duration of valve that it was designed for with that cam profile. So even though I've got a different length of rocker, I think the distance travelled is going to be the same, even though I'm further in. So anyway, I think we're back on track. So it just goes to show my original thought was a pad of PDFE, and I thought, oh no, I'll get away with a little brass bit, which is easier to replace. Well, that was really quick and simple to make, but yeah, sometimes you got to go with your first feeling, I think, rather than take the easy route. But anyway, so we're getting there. So I need to make up something now with an M5 thread. I can measure the gap there in the low position. You know, make a piece with a length of thread, make sure it's not too long, not too short. There's plenty of adjustment to make it longer, but I must make sure it's not too long, so it's not interfering when it's on. Obviously, I've got the width of a lock nut to think about under there as well. Lock nut could go on the bottom, easier to adjust if it went on the top. And I suppose if it had a hexagon on the outside of it, rather than thinking of turning down an Allen bolt, if that makes sense, I could turn down an Allen bolt, but that would leave a circular end, which is fine, but I've got no sort of way of turning it unless I machine some flats on it. Let's see. I could always put a hexagon back onto an Allen bolt, couldn't I? So, just made this little tappet. It's an M5 Allen bolt, started out like this. Basically faced it off, skimmed the OD because it wasn't running true to the thread, but so that's the tappet. It's stainless steel. There's enough thread length, I think these were 25, I think it's 15 now, that it sticks out the bottom wide enough to be able to have the lock nut on the underside. And I think for adjustment I'm going to need a hexagon on here. So I just grabbed a 6mm spanner, and I reckon on there I'm going to get this up in the collet block in the milling vise, put a 6mm hexagon on there. So that'll allow me to get the 6mm spanner on top to adjust the tappet, 10mm spanner on the bottom, no, 8mm spanner on the bottom to lock the nut up once we got it in position. As they say, there's next to no loads on this, so that's probably overkill. It could have probably been an M3, but then, yeah, anyway, that said, that's what I've made it out of. So I got junk all over my table here, but I'm only taking tiny bits of metal, so I'm not going to have swap everywhere, hence why I haven't cleared the table off. A little bit faster with that. So, it's 8mm at the moment, so it's a mil side off, and I just touched off and I got a 0 on my DRO. The bolt is tight in the collar. If it's 8mm at the moment, I want it 6mm AF. And it's a mil aside. What I tend to do when I'm doing this, I'm only tickling it, as you can see. That's 0.9, 0.98, 1mm. Okay, so step one, I've got my collet block flush with the front of the vise. Switch off. I'm going to rotate 180. Where are we? There. And then I can just do a test fit with the spanner then. It's not critical how far out I am in the vise because I'm not milling to a shoulder, but I don't want to go running into my cutter. So I'll come back off to my approximate 0 mark. Here we are, I was 0.02 down. So I'll good at like 0.8 maybe, try the spanner on there. And if the spanner fits, I'll do 0.9 on all the other sides. Not quite. 0.9. I'm actually quite confident that 1mm aside is going to do it as it stands, but nope. Right, so that is 1mm. So that's 1mm both sides. And maybe the spanner will now fit. Okay, I could put two flats on it, but it might be a bit awkward. So I am going to make it a hex on the top. So basically, bring the next flat up, back in position, hold it down firmly, lock it off in the vise, and do the other final four. Would have been easier had I had a hexagon bolt, but M5 wouldn't have had this size head, it would have been an M8, and I probably would have had to do this anyway, so not to worry. Okay, next one should be here, down flat, line up on the front. And so on and so forth. So you can see the hexagon taking shape. This one should be done. Yes, it is. Next is that one. Just come off enough. And it should be, by my reckoning, one more flat. It should be that one. And that's it. So, hexagon on there, deburr that now, and we're ready to fit it up. Okay, so it's all in place now. The little tappet sitting under the valve. I've left a little bit of clearance for now, you know, a half a mil or more. Lock nut on the underside. I can get the spanner in there for the lock nut. That's easy. And I can get the 6mm spanner on the tappet for adjustment. So that's pretty easy. Now, if I find over time I have to adjust it up any further, I'm going to run out of threads on the bottom. But not to worry, there's enough room to put the nut on top and in a conventional manner, as it were. So, yeah, I'm pleased with it. As you can see, valve works nicely. You know, no problems there. Yeah. So I think that's that part of it done, other than final adjustments. More to do on the valve block. That'll be the next steps, I suppose, probably in next week's video now. But we're getting there. Yeah, I'm pleased that's all worked out. Well, here we are, guys. Usual story. I think that's about it for this one. Okay, so yeah, I made a few mistakes. I put them right. Yeah, maybe if somebody's trying to follow the way I'm doing it, they'll see what I did wrong and they can get it right first time. So I'm wasting nobody's time but my own, really, am I? So with that said, I'm going to sign off. Now, I am going to put a little bit of footage of Pembroke Castle on the end. So those of you who don't want to see that, then this is the point where I sign off. So thanks for watching, guys. Those of you that do, a little bit of history. Pembroke Castle, it's a big castle in Wales. It was built before the Norman invasion, the original version of it. So we're talking 1300 years old, some of it. The original, I believe, would have been a wooden castle, but then there was a Norman castle built, so after 1066, shall we say, during the when the Normans were ruling Britain. So that puts it sort of 1200 years old, near as what's it. And of course, what's really interesting, it was the birthplace of Henry VII. Now, Henry VII was the father of the famous Henry VIII, one of our most notorious kings over here, but and most famous, I would have said. But his father, the first Tudor, was born in Pembroke Castle. So anyway, it's interesting stuff. It's not too much of it. I'm going to stick it on here. Right. Oh, we're not loud up there at the moment.
Swans to it.
those of you who enjoyed that and watched that little bit, thanks for sticking with it. You know, you wouldn't have watched it if it wasn't interesting to you or of interest to you, hence why I signed off for the people who wouldn't have found it interesting. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you all very soon. Cheers now.